We have come to the end of the line in the SEC. Mark Rogers TV ranking every Power 5 conference schedule, including Notre Dame and BYU. We have run through the ACC. We have now gone 14 all the way up to number 1 in what is considered to be college football's best conference, the SEC. And the most difficult schedule in the SEC goes to the 2014 SEC champion, Alabama Crimson Tide. And here is why. Alabama, despite not having to play themselves in the SEC West, is playing college football's most difficult division, the SEC West. So there you have it. I tried to find an Eastern Division schedule that was more difficult than any schedule in the West. And despite some difficult non-conference scheduling out of South Carolina in particular, I couldn't find a schedule in the East that trumped the West. Too much Kentucky, too much Vandy, South Carolina, and Florida are marginal teams. Everybody in the West might be better than everybody in the East, aside from Georgia and Tennessee, maybe Mizzou. We shall see. But the way it plays out right now, considering the past 5 seasons in the SEC, including winning 10 of 14 matchups last season, West versus East, the West is best, and Alabama is the best in the West on the field going into this season, and the schedule stacks up this way. So when you play in the West, and tack on to that they're playing what I consider to be the 2 most talented and best teams in the SEC East. No, not Mizzou. Give the Tigers all the credit in the world for winning back-to-back Eastern Division championships, going 14-2 the past 2 years in the SEC. Alabama plays at Georgia, and they play their annual tussle with Tennessee on October 24th at home in Tuscaloosa. So, again, when you play in the SEC West, and then you've got the 2 most talented teams out of the East, there you go. Nobody plays a more difficult non-conference schedule than some of the teams in the East. Why is that? That's because they play, aside from Vandy, they all play rivals, top rivals, outside the SEC, and they play them at the end of the season. You've got Kentucky, Louisville, Florida, Florida State, Georgia, Georgia Tech, and the like. You also have, of course, that South Carolina-Clemson game. Alabama has no such game outside of the conference, but who they schedule this season? Well, Bama has, under Nick Saban, gone out and scheduled neutral site games to start the season and put his team on a big stage. Last season, not such a great challenge, although West Virginia was game and took it to the 4th quarter against Bama, and really game was not decided until about 5 minutes left in the game, but West Virginia turned out to be a marginal 7-6 club. Virginia Tech in past seasons. Well, for Alabama this season, it's a date in Houston against Wisconsin. The Badgers coming off another top 15 season. They defeated Auburn in the Outback Bowl. They went to the Big Ten championship game. And the Badgers are the Badgers. We know that they're going to bring less than superior athletes, but they will be extremely difficult. This is possibly the most difficult non-conference game in the SEC. Most likely that goes to the Georgia or to the South Carolina Gamecocks in having to play Clemson. You also have the Georgia Tech game and Florida State. So this is anywhere from the top non-conference game in the SEC to maybe number 4, something in that range. So Alabama has scheduled tough, taking on Wisconsin. The other 3 non-conference games are garbage, and if you've heard me consistently here on Mark Rogers TV, I'm trashing all Power 5 football for not scheduling tough enough non-conference games. This is the reason why. You cannot compare teams because you cannot compare conferences, because once they play within the conference, they're playing in a silo. So we need better non-conference games. When the SEC and the Pac-12 do not play a single game the entire season against each other, and they're considered to be the 2 best conferences, it's difficult to judge. So the SEC, by and large, outside of Ole Miss and Mississippi State and Vandy, do typically schedule the 1 tough game, but I would like to see more than that. For Bama, it's Wisconsin. Then it's total breaks against Middle Tennessee, Louisiana Monroe, and then for some reason the SEC has decided to play scrimmages the week before the rivalry games in late November. And for Alabama, that's Charleston Southern. So again, the formula is simple Here, when we look at divisional play, we look at cross-conference play. Alabama plays Tennessee and Georgia, with the game in Athens against Georgia on October 3rd. They scheduled the one toughie, one of the top 4 non-conference games in the SEC, and taking on Wisconsin on September 5th at Reliant Stadium. It is the most difficult schedule in the SEC. It belongs to the Alabama Crimson Tide. Would like to hear what you have to say right here on Mark Rogers TV.